Welcome back. Hey, Lucy. What's up? Jessica, how are you? Yeah, it's been a while. What up, Ben Benavides? Oh, you know what? It'd help if I upload this clip that I need to watch, right? Now I gotta find the clip. There it is. I'm really digging this music, in case you can't tell. Hey, Paul, welcome back again. Glad you could make it. You're still home, right? For another day or so? Like you said, you were back home for a few days. So, some of you saw when I had cut the music down just a smidge. You guys saw when I had Brian Martinez last week, and I interviewed him. He's running for commissioner of District 1. Fausto, what up, Chuck? I had Brian Martinez on last week, and a good discussion. Seems like a nice guy. And touched on a few subjects. And then I was contacted by a gentleman who I just had on, I don't know, an hour ago, a couple hours ago at the most. And what I should have done was go back and look at the clip. So that was my mistake. So I was um, I have been. It's just been busy, and I didn't take the time to look at the whole video again. Because I'll be honest, I never watch myself. I don't go back to my shows except for the real funny ones, like when Bam was there, he was funny, or when I was having that laugh attack. Remember that? If you guys didn't see that laugh attack one, I gotta post that again. So stuff like that I'll watch, but I don't like to go. I don't like to just watch myself for the sake of watching myself. Not even for what could I have done better or this something like that. so so I didn't watch it, and so I wanted to come back and say that I want to show the clip right now of what the gentleman Richard was talking about, and Richard, he had something to say, and I brought him on, and he said what he had to say, but I wasn't in any way trying to beat down on Brian or any of that, or jump in on any. It wasn't meant to bash Brian or anything like that. So I watched the clip for clarity to make sure. Like, wait a minute, okay. And again, it's something I should have done before the show, right? I get that. Me grab that video. All right, let me kill the music a little bit. That's good music, by the way. I like it.
And beautification, of course, quality of life. Being able to work a lot with other organizations who already are doing the work. Like I'm very fond of what's their name, RGV Cleanup or something of that nature with Richard Hitchcocks, who does an amazing job in going out and cleaning up neighborhoods. And that's what it's about. It's about leaning on other partners and organizations to not duplicate the efforts that are already going on in the city. What we need to do as a city is see where the gaps are so we can fill them in and step in with the community and be able to help.
So that was a clip, and the thoughts from Richard's side, or from Richard himself, I should say, was that maybe Brian was trying to take credit or associate himself with um, Richard's organization. And at first, I thought I might have heard that as well, but that old saying in construction: measure twice, cut once. Yeah. So I take responsibility for that. I should have watched the video and make sure. But Brian clearly did not associate himself with Richard's organization, which that does a great job. I'm glad I had him on because I had no idea. Um, but yeah, he clearly wasn't. He clearly wasn't trying to do an ending sketchy. At least I don't believe he was. And I played a clip, and I think that solves that problem right there. So I want to apologize for not, watching the clip first and showing it, because then I might have talked to Rich. He wasn't really making any false claims or anything. In fact, he was praising you and your organization. And so still, Ben, Richard's organization is good, and I'm sure the money that they're looking to raise, a lot of it is just for equipment, cleaning supplies, food and drink to feed all the volunteers that come and help. So I'm sure it gets put to a good cause. So without further to do, I've got somebody else coming on to talk about some other items. Whenever you're ready, buddy. And everybody, welcome Roy De Los Santos back to the program. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you doing, Manny?
Ooh, you're very loud, very loud.
I'm sorry. I'm just on my laptop.
No, that's cool. How you doing? How are things? How's
Things
the
are
commission?
great. Things are very, very good. Just coming off the tail end of another successful Sombrero Festival. So very excited about the year we had there. Very excited about the election season and how things are going so far. Anxious for May 6th to roll around.
Yeah, it seems like so far away, but it really isn't.
No,
we're almost done
days.
with. Yeah, we're almost done with March, and then there's April, and
Oh,
it's
yes.
literally right around the corner. So, found out earlier that you have a little scuffle yourself going on with a mayoral candidate or a former mayoral candidate, right? He's not on the ballot right now anymore.
I wouldn't even call him a former candidate because he was never a candidate in this election cycle.
A former applicant?
Applicant, that's appropriate.
Yeah. And we're talking about Mr. Pat Ahumada, who was mayor a few years ago.
Yeah.
And he had, did he finish his term, or was did he step down because of a issue?
He served one full term, and then during a second term, he resigned to run for a higher office. I think he was seeking the Republican nomination, probably for county judge, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, but he resigned as mayor. during his second term in order to seek the nomination for county judge as a Republican. I don't think he won that nomination.
So there was, if I remember, there was a DUI involved, but it was not while he was serving. Is that correct?
Not to the best of my recollection. Yeah, he did not leave office as mayor because of any scandal or impropriety or anything like that.
All right.
In fact, I think he was, by all standards back then, and I think in his eyes, he was doing an excellent job as mayor. And that's what I think his perception was. And that's why he was willing to seek a higher office, because he thought he could do the same type of good that he felt he was doing for the city at the county.
And Pat was the one who was very, very, very pro animal rights.
Yes,
he was. You can say he was an activist for animals and animal rights.
Absolutely, that's definitely something that I would consider a strong trait for Pat.
Yeah, I remember him always showing pets and don't do this with your pet, and help rescue these pets and help foster these, and I like that about him. So, what was the issue that you had in particular?
Well, and it's not specifically with Pat, I guess. This is not the first ethics complaint I file this election cycle, but that's something that I do is I look at what's going on, what the landscape is, and this is not just during an election season. This is year round. And I think, and I've worked very hard to build my reputation as a commissioner who wants to make sure we're doing things the right way, above board, following the rules, following the laws. And so I've already seen 2 instances where I had concerns about the law not being followed and or potential fraud being perpetrated. And so I filed ethics complaints. So I did not file the first ethics complaint against Pat. My first ethics complaint was against another candidate in another race. But my second one was against Pat because I have serious concerns that he's not eligible to hold the office of mayor. And that's because of the law. And it's the same law that is leading Jessica Tetrew to run for mayor now, because she is termed out as city commissioner. So, and that includes her previous terms. It's not about terms that she has served since the law changed. It includes previous service. So if it applies to her, and it will apply to Dr. Gowan when she reaches the end of this term, even though she will have only served 1 term since the term limits went into effect, because of the language of the law, previous service counts. And both Commissioner Tetrew and Commissioner Gowan have accepted that. Clearly, Pat Almada doesn't accept that. He doesn't think the law should apply to him. He thinks the law is wrong, and he wants to try and challenge it. The issue that I have is that he's putting signs out there and telling people in protest, you should vote against every one of the proposed charter amendments. And I'm sorry, but the charter amendments, especially 3 through 6, are about greater accountability, especially in the wake of the Tenaska scandal. So for someone to be going out there saying vote no to all of these, that is someone who is going to cause the next Tenaska if these things don't pass. And that is just completely irresponsible. And to be doing it because of their selfish wants or needs to be mayor is ridiculous. Pat had every opportunity to get on the ballot in the District 2 race or in the at-large race. He ran for District 2 commissioner 4 years ago. For some reason, that's not good enough for him this time. And he's insistent on wanting to be mayor. He waited until 48 hours before the deadline to file. Within 24 hours, the city notified him he was not eligible, which should not have even been a question, because everybody knew May 1 of 2021, when the charter amendments passed overwhelmingly, that nobody who has served before at least enough time that would preclude them from holding office again, you're no longer eligible. Everybody's known that. Nobody has challenged that up to now. It wasn't until, again, 48 hours before the deadline, let me file my application. The city responded very expeditiously within 24 hours and still advised that he was eligible to file for at-large or District 2. He chose not to. And
so he was kind of trying to slip his way in there, and maybe nobody will notice or something.
I don't know what he was thinking, because it was. I mean, he said he submitted a letter requesting a legal opinion because he knew it was questionable at best, but it's honestly just not legal.
Yeah, termed out basically. Chuck Nelson, it's early, but do you recommend a candidate for mayor? Do you got a favorite already?
It's a
Of
good
course, they're
question.
going to get you to want to say it, but you may not want to right now.
I
And then you don't
absolutely,
have to. You don't
I
have to.
absolutely have a favorite who I'm not going to name tonight. We'll do that as we get closer to the election season. What I'll say
Male or
is,
female? Okay, don't answer that. Don't answer that. Never mind.
and what I'll say is, well, you've got 2 men and 2 women, so it would still be a 50-50. But
True.
what I will say is this: there's only 2 candidates in this race that I'm seriously considering as viable candidates. But considering that Tanaska is the big thing on everybody's mind, and it should be, because it's about fixing the system so that things like this do not happen in the future. And when we look at the race, when we look at the 4 candidates, there's only one individual who, throughout their tenure on the commission, never voted to raise rates, absolutely voted to lower utility rates to pre-Tanaska levels, and led the charge for the audit into Tanaska that revealed everything that has been revealed, and which will be the catalyst for the 29 million plus getting returned to citizens. And it won't just be the 29, because we're pushing for the 29 million plus all of the interest earned on the 29 million to go back to the citizens of Brownsville. And that's John Cowan, who has the record there of not being there for all the bad part of Tanaska, but being here for the cleanup part of Tanaska.
Do we know what's going on with that, like, as of right now, as far
As of right now, I can tell you that things are still on track on the timeline that PUB had laid out in either late January, early February, about having to do the evaluation to determine what type of an impact it could have to bond ratings if the utility, or when the utility returns the money to the public. All indications are that that should be wrapped up sometime in early April. I know it's in April for sure. I believe it's early April. And right after that, we should be able to go ahead and move forward as expeditiously as possible with starting those credits to customers' bills. And as I understand it, if you were a customer over any of that duration and are currently a customer today, it would be a credit to your account. If you're no longer a customer, a check would likely be issued to you. And if for any reason anyone who was a customer during that time and paid in and who is now deceased, then it would likely go through the state of Texas and whatever the system is for getting it either to their estate or the next of kin.
Yeah. So hopefully it will happen. People are not hopeful. That's going to be a lot of money, being that we mentioned earlier that of that 29 million, one entity is going to suck up a lot of it, because obviously they use a lot of energy.
I don't know that it's going to be that one entity that's going to take a big chunk. I know probably 40 to 50% of it is going to be taken up by commercial account holders. And that of course will be the larger ones, your Walmarts, your hospitals, your school district, your big industrial. That's a PUB customer because they're the bigger consumers, so they have the higher bills. So they paid in a greater dollar amount than a residential customer did. So they'll be the bigger beneficiaries, but that's what the citizens have indicated they want. Give us back our money. And for those, and we've heard it from some candidates in this race, for those of us that don't need it, let us give it to the charity of our choice or to the people.
Right.
Let us do that. And I respect that completely. I think that's a great approach to it. I think that's something we hear nationwide. We don't want the government to decide what to do with our money. Let us decide what to do with our money. That's the path we're going down here.
I hope that is the case. Elizabeth asking, do you believe there'll be a runoff? Or you think it's going to be?
I do believe there will be a runoff for mayor. And the reason I went into what I did about Commissioner Cowan was because I hear that from the challengers who are not on the commission today. And I hear from other folks, they say, don't put anybody back in office because they're the ones that brought us this. And that's why I want to differentiate, because Commissioner Cowan was not there when all of that happened, but was there for all the efforts that have led to the cleanup.
Ben Benavides says, Roy, we all know if it wasn't for Erasmo, nothing would have ever been said. So are you giving John the credit? No way.
I'm not giving John all the credit, but I'm telling you, when I voted as commissioner for this audit, I had no idea that Erasmo Castro or his followers were arguing about Tenasca. In no way, shape, or form has anything that has been said by Mr. Castro been what led me to vote for this audit, or what led me to put all of the Tenasca documents that I had received up to that point on my website. In fact, as soon as the Tenasca report was released, I was the one that sent it to Mr. Castro. So no, I know there's some of those that believe there that Erasmo is the one who brought all of this to light. And I'm not saying that they weren't absolutely out there shouting it from the rooftops, but to say that they get the credit and that none of this would have happened without them, no, I'm sorry, that's just not true.
How long did that audit take?
To the best of my recollection, just under 12, well, it was definitely within a year. I know it was supposed to be May originally, and I don't think we got it until closer to August or September.
Mhm.
Because I think by the time it was out, it was already September, October timeframe.
Now, what is the disparity here? Okay, so like this comment, I know we know there's 179 million that was out there.
And no, there's not. And that's a lie too. And I love that people keep telling this lie.
Yeah, then where are they getting that from?
Because they're trying to take into consideration monies that were spent towards the Tenasca project that did not come from Tenasca revenues on customers' bills. The money that came in from customers' bills as a result of the rate increases, of the Tenasca rate increases, was by PUB's account and by their recent audit from an independent auditing agency was 114 million and change. I'm not saying no additional monies were spent, but any additional money spent were spent out of general fund or other revenues that came in, not Tenasca money. So no, Tenasca revenues are the revenues that were generated by the Tenasca rate increases. No way totaled $179 million. That is a lie.
And Paul Lemaster jumps on Ben Benavides' comments and criminal charges filed.
And I will say, Paul, that our city attorney's office, and I'm sure our city manager's office was involved in it. When the audit was received, the audit was turned over to law enforcement agencies. It is my understanding that investigations are still ongoing. So criminal charges are something that actually could come if criminal wrongdoing is found. And I would not be opposed to that. If somebody was breaking the law, throw the book at them.
BISD will get a big chunk. That's what I was insinuating as well. The poor people will get nothing. We know that.
The poor people will get what they paid in, their share of what they paid in, and BISD will get their share of what they paid in.
Is there going to be enough to go around with that? Well, with that 29 million?
Well, nobody's going to get 100% of what they put in this one bill credit. The big thing to keep in mind is that a chunk of the Tenasca money was used to fund the subsidies for the fuel surcharge. So while the rest of the country was seeing increases in utility rates because of the rising prices of natural gas, PUB was subsidizing that locally so that our bills were not rising at those same steep levels. So a portion of the money has already gone back to PUB customers directly on their bill as a subsidy to the fuel surcharge. And this is what remains is the $29 million. So that's what will go out as part of the bill credits.
Kate, who's from down under, is asking, do you believe that nepotism leads to corruption?
Yes and no. And let me clarify that. Nepotism can absolutely lead to corruption. And I say that because if you're giving somebody the job just because of the relation and not because they're qualified, absolutely it leads to corruption. But I don't think somebody should be disqualified from a job just because of who they're related to, as long as they go through the full application vetting process and are determined to be the best qualified candidate. And of course, you have laws that ensure people within 1 degree of consanguinity or affinity cannot get certain positions, and that's completely understandable. But yeah, if anybody's out there trying to get a job for someone related just because they're related and not because they're qualified, that absolutely, that in and of itself is corruption and would lead to further corruption.
Yeah, so one couldn't manage another.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
And if they're on the same level, one cannot get a promotion or a higher position if they're going to be if they're going to be subordinate
Exactly.
over there. Okay, yeah.
And we got to remember, it should never be, my primo can do that job. It's not about who can do the job. It's about who's best qualified to do the job, and is in accordance with the law, not related within the limited degrees of consanguinity or affinity.
All right. Erasmo's in the house, and of course, he's got something else to say. Mrs. Dos Santos is mistaken. We have live recordings where we're calling out everything mentioned in the audit as far back as 2015.
I never said they weren't calling it out. What I said is this audit did not come about. My vote to conduct this audit has nothing to do with what was going on the Erasmo Castro show in 2015. I don't think I was even watching that show back then. So no, I am not mistaken. I'm not saying you all weren't saying it. I'm saying my vote to conduct an audit had nothing to do with you. You don't get credit for my vote to conduct this audit.
So maybe we have to go back and look at the tape. I know you got the recordings. We should get those out. Ben Benavides, I heard from a good source from the PUB board. And then Erasmo Castro, the 179 comes from the numbers PUB produced, which includes 114 million plus land purchases and
right away,
row.
But again, is that 179 what was generated from the Tenasca rate increase? No, it is not. And that's what we're talking about, is how much did people pay above and beyond to fund the Tenasca project that was taken to them under what they feel now were false pretenses, because the truth was not being told to the PUB board and the city commission. And that figure that the people paid in is 114, not 179. And that comes from PUB also. So PUB can't be giving us two sets of numbers. They can give us two sets of numbers in that, yes, the overall expenditures for Tenasca were 179 million, but of that 179, 114 came from the rate increases. The rest came from general fund or other sources of revenue.
Yeah, what about these Rosaka fees? This has already gone into action, yes?
And it's not a raising of the Rosaka fee; it's an implementation of a Rosaka fee, and I think the name Rosaka fee is completely misleading and is probably problematic at best.
Yeah, because I would say I don't have a Rosaka. Why do I got to pay for somebody else Rosaka fees?
Exactly, and that's why it's not a fee for those that live on a Rosaka or have a Rosaka. It's that the Rosakas are part of our water infrastructure, our entire water supply system. We use it for stormwater whenever there's going to be heavy storms. We know we lower those levels to ensure that they can take up the volume expected. Some of those are used to hold water, which will then go through filtration into our water supply. And so the monies that are being raised from the Rosaka fee is for what will be our contribution towards a larger government grant to shore up the Rosaka system for the future. And then that's one thing, is where we're still lacking in the area of electricity from an infrastructure perspective. And that's why we were hit so hard by the winter storm. When it comes to water, we are head and shoulders above so many other cities in the region. And that's both South Texas and Northern Mexico. Because we have the desalinization plant, we are not as dependent on the Rio Grande River as other cities are in the valley. And I know we have partners in that plant. I believe Rancho Viejo and Los Fresnos and possibly some other small towns. But we know other surrounding cities are now looking at our technology to start implementing the same on their own. And we are looking to expand the capacity of, or build up to the capacity that the desalinization plant has, so that we're ready for the future. But Brownsville and PUB and the work they've done when it comes to water infrastructure is leaps and bounds ahead of the other cities in the region.
So speaking of the water, I want to talk about taste.
Yes.
I think it's horrible.
Well,
freaking horrible.
I have to think that where you live in town and what the infrastructure is like in those sections may be part of it. And that may include what comes from the main into your home and what type of work was done, what type of pipes you have, what type of condition they're in. Because I grew up drinking from the water hose, drinking from the faucet, and that was both growing up out on Southmost, and I think we had El Jardín water supply out there. And that was spending lots of times, especially summers, at my grandmother's house on the west side of Brownsville on Villa Maria. And I remember my grandmother, she'd fill the Tupperware pitcher from the faucet, put it in the refrigerator. It was nice and cold. And I still love that flavor when I would be outside running around and come inside for a cold glass of water. And that was straight from the faucet.
But have you tasted water in any other big cities?
What's that?
Have you tasted water in any other big cities? Tap water.
I have. I wouldn't say, does it taste different? Yeah, to some extent. Would I say it tastes better? Not to me. To me, there's a lot of times I'd rather be drinking from that water hose like I did when I was a kid.
I don't know. You know, it's funny when I go to different restaurants and I quit asking for water with lemon because most of the time the water comes from the tap and it's horrible. If they filter it, it's different. And of course, it tastes good. But it's got that weird taste. You know, I grew up on Chicago water. And like you, I could drink from a hose all day long, you know, or from the faucet, and everything was good. And it had historically, Chicago and New York City have had some of the best tasting water in the country. And every time I go to any other state, it's always off a little bit. And I don't know if I'm just conditioned to how Chicago treats their water, or if these other communities haven't. Maybe their workers haven't gone out or, you know, I know there's not a way water is supposed to taste like, because you can buy bottled water and even some of those all taste a little bit different. Some worse than others. Like I think Dasani tastes horrible. That's horrible water.
My favorites are Ozarka and Evian.
I like Fiji. Fiji is really good.
I like Fiji also.
Yeah. But of course, you're paying for it. And some of these come from the tap as well. They just filter them a little bit. So who the heck knows?
Yeah.
Erasmo, bullcrap on the subsidy. When did they decide that? How convenient that the subsidies rhetoric only came y'all's talking points after it was determined we were duped.
No, see, and that's a bunch of bull right there. And let me tell you why. Because people like Erasmo Castro have no problem saying, look at the audit. The audit tells us we were right. It proves us correct. We've been vindicated. We were right all along. But the same audit says that the money was used for subsidies. So is the audit true or is the audit bullcrap? You cannot have it both ways. Either the audit is right and everything you said you were fearing is true, or if the audit's wrong, then that means you're wrong also. So you cannot say that the audit vindicates you, but that the audit's wrong when it talks about the subsidies. Cannot have it both ways. And I know that's what a lot of these folks are trying to do. But if we're taking the audit at face value, then take it at face value and suck it up if you don't like it.
I mean, I get that. And this is a question. Do you believe anybody has done anything that wrong that they could face charges?
I don't know for a fact that that's the case, but I have an inkling that there was some wrongdoing that I would consider criminal. I think especially if you're keeping a project going under false pretenses or using misleading information, if you're presenting elected officials and decision-making bodies with information you know is not current and accurate, and you know that the outcome is going to be things like people's land being taken through condemnation, then I think there may be some possible criminal liability there. Like, again, I'm not a legal expert, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm inclined to think that there's some type of laws that were broken.
And if there was some wrongdoing, you're totally for, hey, let justice take its course.
Absolutely. And I think, like I said, throw the book at them.
A few days ago, I had Mr. Tino Villarreal, who's running for commissioner. And I asked him, because he was on a PUB board.
Yep.
And I asked him how he felt when that audit report finally came out. And he said, I don't know if you caught any of that or not, but he said he felt incompetent. You know, he felt like, what could I have done better? Or we, for that matter, what could the board have done better? And I took that to be a very genuine response. And I know some people have their opinion on him as well. But I found that to be a very sincere response. And I would hope that everyone else had the same kind of feeling. You know what I mean?
I would hope so. I'm inclined to think that's not necessarily the case, because I know there's still people out there trying to discredit the car rigs and Ingram audit because they don't like what it says. And I'm sorry, but yeah, sometimes the truth does hurt, but it's the truth. And now we have to embrace it and accept it and move on from here. And one, what can we do to rectify that? But also, what can we do to ensure that this does not happen again? That's the big thing here. And I think Tino is someone that wants to do that. But I think this it highlights a bigger issue. And that's why, and I've expressed concerns about this before, like this is part of why I'm against term limits. Because you have folks that come in and you hear both sides. Why do we keep putting the same people in positions? We should have new people. Okay, but new people come in with less experience. And when you've got people with less experience, they're dependent on the bureaucrats to tell them what's what. And for all intents and purposes, what happened here is those people who were depending on bureaucrats to tell them what's what were given less than 100% accurate information. And that led those folks to vote for a project that ultimately turned out not to be feasible. So that's the other side of the coin when you're talking term limits, is you don't want somebody turning it into a career, but by the same token, you don't want people who are so inexperienced all the time that the bureaucrats can tell them whatever they want and they take it at face value. You've got to be able to know where to look and what questions to ask. And sometimes that's tough to do. I work very, very hard, and unfortunately, I've been one of those who've caught several deficiencies in some of the information that has come to us at the commission, and we have to make sure we catch those to go back and get it corrected, because that's the only way we can truly make informed decisions. Because when we don't make informed decisions, we have TANASCA.
Yeah, I was torn on the term limits issue because I come from Chicago. We had aldermen out there, and the aldermen for these communities, there were some that did a lot of good, and that's why they kept voting him back in, and they stayed there for a very long time. And there were some that legit, improved the neighborhoods. They had programs for kids. They gave away Cubs tickets to the neighborhood every 3 or 4 times a year.
Yep.
And they were always out there, and they were always doing good things. And my thought ever since then was like, well, yeah, if they're doing good, why remove someone who keeps doing good? At the same time, you look at people like, in upper government, for example, Pelosi one or Biden another, who seem to, and I'm not picking on them just because they're Democrats, but just because they're, I don't know, so many years, but there's not a lot to show. And that's when I think, oh, yeah, definitely term limits. They shouldn't be in there for 30 years or 40 years or whatever. So I was kind of torn on that issue somewhat.
No, I completely understand that. And I think especially when you're talking about big, powerful positions where you're paid a huge salary, where you've got a huge budget for your own offices and staff, not just in Washington or Austin, but even in districts, that's a very different story than somebody that's getting paid $10 a meeting.
Yeah. Well, this wasn't necessarily an official debate or discussion, and we're just kind of shooting the breeze here.
Absolutely.
I'm sure Ed Almo wouldn't mind. I'm sure Roy wouldn't mind. I just don't know if this is the night for it. Let's see. So bullcrap, and he's still with the bullcrap. Wow, suck it up. I mean,
how else could we put it? And like I said, that's the thing that kills me so much is, and I won't name the candidate, but you had a candidate who was on another podcast and talked about how many times they've read the audit and they know the audit and they speak out about this now, but then they were asked, so where'd the money go? Well, it went to raises and they built a new building. Well, there's nothing in the car rings and Ingram audit that says the TANASCA monies went to build the new PUB building or to fund pay increases for executives. It counts where those monies were spent. But it's real easy for us to say, look, criminal activity, the audit proves it, but then where'd the money go? Well, it goes somewhere over here that the audit never even says it goes. So when people are trying to have it both ways, I have a big problem with that. I'm going to call a spade. And sometimes, you've got to tell them to suck it up because that's all it is. They don't like the answers. It doesn't play into their narrative. And if you want to serve the people of Brownsville, if you want to be an elected official, it needs to start with you being honest. So you can't be telling the audit story one way and then the audit story another way. The audit's either right or it's not.
See, what do you think? I'm saying, okay, let's see. I'm talking about allowing fracking, which is fracking is a whole other. not right here. Yeah. So speaking of Mr. Cowan, tomorrow he's on the program tomorrow night, and then I think it's Monday. I'm sorry, Tuesday. Linda Macias will be on.
Good.
And
Very good.
we'll be talking a lot of these same issues. Next week we'll have Katy Presas, and I'm waiting to hear from Jennifer Stanton. Yeah, we're trying to set up a date. You know anything about Jennifer Stanton?
Only what I've seen online.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff online as well.
Yeah.
And other than that, I don't know at all anything about her.
I met her once in person at the drawing for place on the ballot. And I know I've seen her in public. I believe I saw her at Taste de la Frontera, but we did not speak at that event.
Yep. I don't know if you have time. I don't know. Would you care to talk to Erasmo online? I don't know if you want to.
Oh, and by the way, when you talk, yes, I'm willing, but I wanted to say, I heard you mention earlier, you don't go back and watch your shows unless they're certain shows. Does that mean you didn't go back and rewatch the 3.5 hour show we did?
Okay, I watched some of that. I did. I did watch. We did a 3.5. I swore it was almost 4 hours.
I think so.
And that's back when we were doing, I don't know, 2 or 3 hour shows at a time. And very entertaining they were, I must say. Good times. I'll give him the link if he wants to come on real quick. It can't be an all-nighter because I got to get up super early tomorrow.
Of course.
But Erasmo, if you're listening, if you want the link, I will provide that for you.
But be prepared. If you're going to make a claim, you better be able to point to it in the audit.
I'm sure he'll have the same conditions for you as well on that.
Absolutely.
So I know he said he was out, but I'm not sure if he's. Hold on, let me get this to him just in case. Just in case. Here, another question real quick. What do you think about Jessica's people calling and asking for her vote, but when you ask a question, she hangs up? I got to say, I'm disappointed. I haven't heard back from her. I've reached out there a few times to either be on a program or give us a discussion or something. But it's totally, I want to say, ghosting. I mean, I don't know how else to put it.
Well, and I don't know firsthand what the circumstances are. So all I can say is, me, I believe any and every candidate, anyone who wants to serve the people, should be willing to come out publicly, speak, answer questions. I'm always a little selective with which shows I'm willing to go on. One, I usually won't go on the show if it's a show hosted by someone who's running for office at the time. And also, if the show just loses complete credibility with me, then chances are I may not go back, or it's tougher.
Yeah, and it just makes me wonder if she picks and chooses who she responds to, what is she going to be like if she's in office? That's my question. It's a fair question.
That's a very fair question, because I know I've heard it from other people. Like when Erasmo was not running for mayor, and people would ask, "Why do you go on a show?" I said, because even he and his followers they're citizens. They have a right to have their questions answered. Yeah. And I'm willing to go. I'm not going to be on 3 nights a week, but I'm absolutely willing to go. Every now and then, Erasmo and I get together. We have lunch together. We're friends. We go back and forth. We go at it, but we are friends. But why would I go on a show? Because his followers have a right to have their questions answered. And if that's where they want to ask them, I'm willing to go there to answer those questions.
Any updates on the broadband progress? Anything further than what we spoke about last time?
All indications are that it is still on track. I believe and I could be completely wrong, don't hold me to this, that the first customers should be coming online later this year. I think it's later this year. And within 12 to 18 months after that, it should be fully built out. So I want to say by the end of 2024, I think we should be fully up and running.
All right, so here we go. Let's make this a civil discussion. Let's not throw bananas and stuff.
Well, look, and I understand the political talk. You know, one of the things that I think a lot of the people here in the city of Brownsville are tired of is the political talk. And one of the things that came out from the audit, and again, I don't believe for a second that John was out there all being influential in regards to the audit. I think it was a sinking ship. And one of the things that, this is my belief, that John wanted to do was hook his star to that little sinking ship, and go, let's go where we're at. Because if we go back 4 years, Commissioner De Los Santos, we had the video where John Cowan didn't know what the hell was going on, but promised that something was going to be done immediately since he came into office. Nothing happened. Absolutely nothing. And you know this. Nothing happened for the past 4 years. Nothing happened for the past 8 years. And we've been screaming about this for the past 10 years. So to say that and I know that later on you said that, well, you know, my vote didn't have anything to do with Erasmo and other individuals, because it wasn't just me. It wasn't just me that was all upset about Tenasca. You know, we did have Commissioner Ben Nice. I almost forgot his name. Nice. You know, we were there together at a joint meeting between the Brownsville City Commission and the PUB board members, and with shirts that Commissioner Ben Nice produced, anti-Tenasca. This is before he started serving as the city commissioner. After that, it all of a sudden seemed like he forgot about Tenasca, and then wanted to bring it up towards the end of his tenure on the city commission. Again, when he was trying to get elected.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like it's an amazing little talking point for anyone that has been sitting on the board and now wants to do something about it. And again, I don't buy it. I just do not buy it. I mean, where was John vocal, Commissioner Los Santos, all these past 4 years, 3 and 8 month years? Where was he vocal about it? And again, and I'll challenge him whenever we go on an account. I want to see where he publicly came out and mentioned anything on Tenasca, even after the audit. And he hasn't, Commissioner Los Santos, or else we'd have it. He hasn't.
And let me say, and I'm not saying this to try and defend. I'm just saying this as a matter of fact, because you and I both know John is never going to be the guy who's up at the pulpit giving the sermon. That's just not who he is. But I know that he was on the audit and oversight committee, and so the vote that came in November of 21 was a result of the work that John was doing on that committee.
That's what y'all are there for, Commissioner Santos. In contrast, now, if anyone was to tell me, and I thanked you, and I even mentioned it publicly, Commissioner Los Santos immediately sent me the audit report, which vindicated, and you guys said this, you even stated that it had vindicated everything that I had mentioned or had been screaming about for the past 10 years in regards to Tenasca. And I appreciate that. You are not a John Cowan, and John Cowan is not a you. So I've always said that, because let me tell you right now, Commissioner, I don't know if we've had this conversation or not. I've gotten into discussions with a lot of individuals out there saying, well, you know, Commissioner Santos is the worst thing that's ever happened to Brownsville. I said, well, wait a minute. And again, you and I go back all the time. Whenever you, and I've said this publicly, whenever an elected official does the right thing, you cannot be that crazy person that says, "Oh, he's horrible. He's horrible." Mm-hmm. You've got to give credit where credit is due. And I immediately recognized the individual that sent me the information, Commissioner Santos. He's been vocal. He's been out here. Commissioner de Los Santos, you are not a John Cowan. And John Cowan has not been a Commissioner de Los Santos. You know this.
Agreed. Oh, I agree 100%.
What we need is commissioners that are going to say something and address the individuals that want the answers. Now, we've been screaming about it for 10 years. A lot of people, and you know this, a lot of people started to come up and started to scream about it, you know, as soon as the audit came out. And a lot of people were upset. We expected something. We got nothing from Commissioner Cowan. And again, you came out and addressed people and addressed the questions. We appreciate that, and it's something that I've given you a lot of credit for. And it has gotten me some people like, well, why do you have lunch with Commissioner Santos? I said because we were hungry, and and we were going to talk about stuff that was going on in the city. And no one controls who I go out there. I will not be controlled by anyone, any interest, any friend, anyone out there, because I have absolutely nothing to hide. But what we expected from a Commissioner John Cowan, someone will be a little bit more vocal. Look, he's got a seat on the ethics committee. That's great. To this day,
audit committee.
To this day, I mean, nothing has been out there, and no one has audited it in regards to the Elon Musk money coming in downtown. There's a lot of things that have transpired, Commissioner Los Santos, and you know this, and you've been vocal on it. There's a lot of things that have transpired in regards to Trey Mendes and the $200,000 that he was trying to get from GBEC. Not one peep from Commissioner Cowan. Not one. Zero, Commissioner Santos. Zero. Jessica, menos. That chick will go wherever the flow goes, wherever there's a picture moment to be had. Everyone knows that. I mean, she was in Matamoros, for goodness sakes. Who the hell goes to Matamoros and goes out there? And all it is a picture moment. She's been there for 12. She was on there for all this time. All this time. She said nothing unless she's talking about her Prada boots or her Gucci something, or driving around in her damn Tesla. So far and beyond the individuals who actually suffered because of her inactions and because of their, trying to stay under the radar in regards to things. And you're not one of those individuals, man. You're not one that flies under the radar. You're gonna, you even made me come on here without a shirt and a tie. But
notice he put his jewelry on though, Manny.
I saw that. I caught that.
The pearls on.
At least I put on a t-shirt. But I'm glad the camera is only catching this part.
And we thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
And full disclosure, Manny, we've got to let you and the viewers know, because I don't know if somebody would consider it a conflict, but at Osmo and I do have a bet that's ongoing right now, and I'm probably going to lose it, but only because of the time frame. But it's a bet for a $2 bill, and it's that whether or not the $29 million would get refunded to the public. And at the time we made the bet, it was going to be 90 days from that day, and that day was January 6th. So, and I don't think that the credits will start by April 6th, so I'm going to owe Mr. Castro a $2 bill, but the money will go back.
And I will gladly accept it. Look, and going
after it goes back, I'm going to make him buy me lunch.
Going back into the 179.
There you go.
Just the 179 million. Look, people of Brownsville were hurt, and they were hurt in more than one way. And let me say, there's still a lot of questions going out there. And that's the number that we focused on was 179 because that was one of the first numbers that was produced by PUB. And let me say, and I'll do the subsidies thing in a little bit, but it was the first number they produced, and that should have been an uproar. Again, one of the things that a lot of folks were out there were saying is that but we want interest. We want some fees to go on, because anytime that PUB ultimately goes out there and says, hey, you didn't pay, well, I'm going to give you this little bit of surcharge. And anywhere else that you invest your money in, you don't expect something else. I said, guys, let's just say, give a number. And the reason I want to give a number out is because, again, we have these recordings where Jessica Tetreault came on while she was a sitting commissioner, and she had no clue how much money had been collected from PUB. Mayor Martinez came on the show. He had no clue, and everyone gave a different number. Someone gave, I think Commissioner Golonsky came out. She gave like a very minimal number, and I go like, it's impossible. I think she said like, and again, like my memory, I'm getting old, but like some 30 some or some million. I said, no, Commissioner, it's impossible. Then Jessica Tetreault came out and said 135 million. And then Martinez came out and said 100 million. So just wanted some type of number out there. So we grasped onto the 179 more than anything is because that was the highest number that was produced by PUB.
I get that.
We got our number back, but let's say that their number was factual and it was 114. I honestly said, and I've said this publicly, I thought it was probably closer to 135. So I was even lower than the 179. But whatever the case, we don't want $29 million back. We want every single dime that they took from us. And one of the you know the I guess platforms for Commissioner Cowan now is, well, we're going to work on giving you $129 million credit. Work on it. I don't want you to work on it. I want you to make sure that you vote to get the money back to the people every single dime that they took, via deception, via lies, via half truths, every single bit. Now, in regards to these subsidies, and I know you said, well, you believe the subsidies, then you got to believe everything else. And if you don't believe, then it wasn't the auditors. When they addressed PUB was the one that produced these numbers in regards to the management. Well, this is the chunk of money that we have, that we gave back to the people of Brownsville. This came out from PUB administration as an excuse as to what they did with the money. My take on it, this is, again, I don't have the full, complete other information that y'all might have received. My take on it was, okay, so when did y'all decide that this money could actually be allotted to give back to the individuals? The way that I read the audit, and I'll go back and look at read it this week. The way I read the audit was that PUB was giving them an explanation and trying to fit in the pieces in regards to where that money was given. No one ever mentioned, Commissioner Santos, anything about subsidies. And I challenge anyone to produce anything or anything that was talked about in regards to subsidies before the audit came out. So it just seemed, and again, this is the way I read the audit, it seemed like a good little fit. So we gave them back $75 million, but we subsidized it so that your utility rates wouldn't have gone up. It doesn't make sense, because if you're a John Cowan or you're a Jessica Tetreault and you're giving me back some money, Commissioner, you better believe that they're going to be out there and putting up little Facebook posts, putting up little messages. We're giving you back money, but no one even mentioned it ever. And it would have been a nice little platform for them to stand on in regards to, this is what we're doing, this is what we found out, but no one knew about it. And you know as well as I do that Commissioner Cowan is tied to the hip with Sampaio. They're everywhere together. They're in business together, everywhere. You think Sampaio wouldn't have let John Cowan know? Hey guys, we're subsidizing. Tanasca, go tell your people that, so that you'll have some talking points to talk, so that you can get ready for your upcoming election as mayor of the city of Brownsville. No one even mentioned it until after the audit came out. Now, if that was the case, Commissioner, if we actually received all these subsidies, why wasn't it discussed before?
And that's a completely legitimate question, but keep in mind, Carrings and Ingram isn't saying, well, PUB told us. Yes, PUB told them, but then Carrings and Ingram verified. They did their audit. This was a forensic audit. They looked at this, and based on their findings, and remember, these findings were not flattering to PUB. Based on everything they found in their investigation, they have determined that, yes, this is where this part of the money went. That is verified by Carrings and Ingram independently.
And let me tell you our other concern, and I've shared this. Well, I've shared this live. Look, and I've shared this on Manny's live the other day. Look, if it had been any one of us, anybody other that is not in this little circle, we would have gotten fried for a lot less, Commissioner Los Santos. And this is what really irks my chain. That it always seems like selective justice out there in regards to it seems, and I'll say the word seems, like selective justice. And again, I lived through the Sylvia Atkinson fiasco. I actually was very, very vocal about the Sylvia Atkinson fiasco. Just everything seemed like selective justice for different individuals. And and I thank God that the feds came down. Thank God that the feds came down, and with the feds, it's a little bit apart from our justice system down here. So we actually got 6.66, which is a kind of cool number.
Good number.
66 here for Sylvia. But let me say, one of the things that I mentioned back with the Sylvia thing, guys, this is one scam. She only got busted on one scam, which gave her 6.66. How many other scams was she involved in? And look, and I've been talking to, even before I was on the BISD board, I've been talking about Sylvia, skimming off the contracts, also for some years before it all came to light. Because one of the benefit, and I know that you benefit from this as well. One of the things that I benefited for years was that I would get all this information. Just makes sense. And when you ask questions to the individuals that, because I'll do my best to ask questions to the individuals that are, sitting in office, trying to get a little bit of confirmation or something, they'd shut down. Because for a long, long time, Commissioner, this is one of the reasons why you ran for office. A long, long time, it was, I'll be selective in regards to the information I want to share with you, and again, I think you and I mentioned this one time. You say, you know what? Well, let me get in there and let me get my own information so I don't have to depend on you because I don't believe everything you're saying. So what happens with Sylvia Atkins, it was one selective justice and she got busted on what? Still waiting for Adela Garza to go to jail for the Sunshine Solutions crap that she brought upon. But if it had been the Fajita Bandit, or if it had been Erasmo, or if it had been Manny, we would have been indicted. We would have been taken in. We would have been questioned. To this day, there's been no questioning, to my knowledge. The only one that has filed a lawsuit against PUB and Kujiak for the hurt that they brought upon the citizens of Brownsville is Erasmo Castro, the only one that has a pending lawsuit against them. You knew about that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and they decided to go to jury trial. I don't know why the hell they want to go to jury trial. I'll take that. I'll take that. My concern with this is that no one has been harmed. There's been very little justice. And at this point, it's not let them eat cake. It's, it's off with their head. That's what we want. And just Manny doesn't know I'm doing my internet. But want something, a little bit, and couldn't even get anyone off the board. And you voted, you brought it to the table to remove Sandra Saenz from the PUB board. Because you knew, Commissioner Los Santos, that is what the citizens of Brownsville wanted. We want to see some type of movement so that we could start seeing, well, something is happening.
But let me speak to that because that's important. Yes, I knew there were citizens out there who wanted to see some type of action like that. However, especially throughout the administrative leave of John Brusiak, I absolutely would not go there because I understand the concerns about the conflict of interest for Sandra. There was nothing to indicate to me that she had taken any action that was not ethical. She had not voted on something that she had a conflict on. She had not intentionally tried to derail something or anything like that. And that's why I would not take that action when it came. And again, whether the citizens wanted it or not, it was about what is right under the law. When it came that I brought that up, I brought it up because the 60 days lapsed and there was nothing.
But you wanted
no meeting, there was no hearing, there was no, we're still going to do something. It was just nothing. And it was that lack of action.
But you placed on the agenda to remove Sandra Saenz.
I placed it on the agenda, but I placed it on the agenda not because the people were screaming for somebody's head. I placed it because as the chair of the board, when the 60-day administrative leave of John Brusiak lapsed, there was no action.
Exactly.
The board should have had a special meeting called. Action should have been taken. And in that, I felt she was derelict. It's nothing personal against Sandra, but that's why when the torches and pitchforks were out there before calling for her head, there's no way in hell I ever would have done it because she had not done anything wrong. Where I felt she made a misstep was not taking action at the end of the 60 days.
At the end of the day, well, again, then I'll correct myself a little bit. Commissioners are there to serve the people. Commissioners are there to serve the people. And let me tell you, a lot of people in the city, Commissioner, grandparents, tíos, tías, were hurt by these people.
Mm-hmm.
Were hurt by the Martinez, were hurt by the PUB upper administration. And just to make that very, very clear, because a lot of people, when I go, that's what I say, we're not linking the individuals that are out there, doing the groundwork. We're not linking them to the fiasco. We know they
Right.
got no money. They weren't making $350,000 a year plus. There was those guys at the top. Those are the guys, and this is mentioned on the audit report. Those were the guys that were, proverbial carrot, greasing the wheels. So the question needs to be, whose wheels were they greasing? For how long? And who knew about it? And those are the questions that we all want answered. I don't want to show y'all too much.
And I think a lot of that is coming out in the emails, and I think that's why the feds are still investigating this, because there is a lot that can be discovered as far as who gave the word not to move forward the new and accurate information, the new and accurate figures, the new and accurate outlook for energy consumption on whether or not this would be feasible. Who was the one who was making those calls, and did they benefit personally from it? And I think that's where the possible criminal wrongdoing comes in.
Now, and going back into the Sylvia thing and the Sinasca thing, one thing that I want everyone on here tonight and everyone that'll see this later on, guys, this is one project, just one, and they took $179 million, just one, and I'll use that as a number, just one. And that's what's infuriating, because it was the same thing with the Sylvia thing. It was $10,000. That was what they caught her on.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars. Because then people said, that's what you said, Sylvia has stolen millions of dollars, but it was only 10,000. I said, like, you really think that's the first time she ever had her hand in the damn cookie jar? No, we've known this for a while. A lot of people in the community knew this for a while. It's just one. But it was that one that got her busted. But the issue that I had with Sylvia's thing is, I mean, I would get the complaints, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to run for BISD during that little time. She hurt a lot of people, Commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
She destroyed a lot of a lot of people out there, destroyed. And they tried to destroy me. They tried to destroy me by filing false police reports. Yeah, I had sex with a male student in a vehicle, Commissioner, and that I had was out there cocoreando with students. And they supposedly, according to Baltasar Salazar, they went and threw all that all the way to Homeland Security to investigate. And that, they'd already checked the back ends of my Facebook. And so they could check everything they want. They're going to find absolutely zero, nothing, because what they said was not true. Now, those types of tactics is what they've used with a lot of folks out there, to destroy lives. It didn't work with me because I'm cut from a different type of cloth. It wasn't going to affect me, and especially since I knew for a fact that I was standing on solid ground when they were going to find nothing, absolutely nothing. But my concern is, I wanted this to be very clear. I don't fight for me, because Commissioner Santos, I don't drive. I don't use the bus system here. I don't use the bus system here.
Mm-hmm.
And the only place that I pay electricity is my office downtown, because I live in my parents' basement, and I live
that PUV.
Now I live on the top floor of my parents' home. But a lot of people have suffered for it. So I want to continue to fight for transparency. I want to continue to fight for individuals to get every single dime that was taken from them, not 29 million, every single dime. And because I think what happens, Commissioner de los Santos, is John Cowan going out there, we're going to fight for 29, and maybe the 11 that the city, needs to go back. The 11 is never going to come. Never going to give it back. It's not going to happen.
Not from the city.
Huh?
Not from the city.
So, but those are the type of words that he'll throw out there. He put it out there, 29, and then we're going to work to get the 11 from the city. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And that's what I hate. don't give me that. Tell me the truth.
But the interest on the 29 will come. That will be part of the refund.
That's going to be another $2 bill.
And that's two point something million.
That's going to be another $2 bill. But
hey, Manny, I wanted to go back to two comments.
Yep.
Along the same lines, I know Abel V. Further back, the McDonald's comment.
Oh, further ahead.
Stop getting me hungry.
Right there. So this one, and then also go up, because I think these go hand in hand. Go up a few more to Chris Escobar.
Yep.
Because and I just want to speak to both you guys on this, and I understand the feelings of a lot of folks. That's one thing the audit showed us, though. This isn't, nobody walked out of PUB with a briefcase full of money. It's not that the money disappeared. They've been able to show exactly where the money went, whether from the consultants to the attorneys to the I don't know if he was a lobbyist or what the title was when he was getting paid thousands of dollars a month with, I don't even think, an invoice. Then the fuel subsidies and the 29 million that's in the fund, they can show where every penny went. So it's not that somebody pulled up a sack of money and just hauled ass out of PUB. That's not what's happening there.
I'm going to disagree.
And if you've got one shred of evidence of that, I'd love to see it, because the audit.
Who do you think? Who do you think?
That.
So you think someone actually pocketed cash
Okay.
off the top?
Yeah, of course they did. And I'll give you a couple of examples, because it's the way that it's been done. And one of the things that I think is going to be very, very telling is when the Gallegos trial comes, and I'm hoping the Gallego trial comes before the election. I'm hoping. I know that's being pushed and pushed and pushed, but with the Gallegos scandal, and Gallegos is cut from the same cloth, guys, as the Cowens, as the Tetros, and all these, the Martinez, all these individuals. There's pictures of them together. Eddie Lucio III. All of a sudden, everyone started to, take down all the pictures that they ever had with Ruben Gallegos. You notice that? Like, remove those damn pictures, because they don't want to have anything to do with it. But what came out in regards to the federal case, and I know this because I talked to some individuals on it, is that the way that they funneled that money, because what they're catching them on is that they overpaid themselves. That's the indictment, that they overpaid themselves. But it's the same thing with the Sylvia Atkinson. The truth of besides them overpaying themselves, which seems kind of like a minute thing, like a $10,000 thing. But besides that, what they would do, Manny, is they said, you know what, I need 10 of these, and this is for my joints, which is made out of marijuana. But it's like icy hot, so don't think it's anything else. But what they said, you know what, I need 10 of these. How much you're going to sell them to me for, Mr. Dos Santos? I said, well, $1 a piece. Oh, okay, fine. Make me a receipt for $100,000. I go like, what? Oh, yeah, make me a receipt for $100,000, and I'm going to pay you $10,000. And that's what's going to come out with the IES, because that's how they made their money. It's going back, and Manny doesn't know because he's too young, but you and me, Commissioner Santos, might remember, the $800 toilet seats and the $10,000 hammers back in the 80, 86, 87.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same game. And this is exactly what happened with the Tanasca thing. It's the same thing. We're going to come out and we're going to find out that a lot of people made a boohoo's amount of cash. And it's unfortunate. And again, so laundering. I don't know if you call it laundering or if you're trying skimming off contracts. That's what I've always called it. You skim off the contracts, because Gallegos had Trevino out there, fixing his different buildings out there and having to manipulate all those receipts, and all that's going to come out. And what really, really hurts, I think, the community, Commissioner Santos and Manny, is that the dad actually had a school named after him, all still alive, which I think was sad. It's a mistake. that's my opinion. I think no one should have a school named for themselves unless someone is planning to name a school at Aston Castro. Then I think it's going to be okay. I still want to be allowed for that.
Of course, of course.
But what hurts is there's a lot of people out there in the community that had them in great esteem, you know, because what happens is people believe the bullcrap. People believe the political talk because it's just so hard to believe the truth that we got screwed, that they knew we got screwed, and they were planning to continue to screw us. And that's what came out in the other. And that's what hurts.
My question to you guys, I got a question for both you guys. You know, it seems like people can take office, for example, become mayor, and just take advantage of that position and buy up and use resources and get resources. And it's like, it almost seems like that's what they ran for and won so that they could get the inside word and all this stuff and acquire property and things like that. I don't think that's right. I don't know if there's a law against it.
There are laws against it.
I know, like Nancy Pelosi with her buying all these stocks, all of a sudden she's a multimillionaire. Mm-hmm. And now they've got a law that, you know, certain people in upper government like that can't be using insider tips to buy stuff like that. And it seems like
I'll take a shot at that question real quick.
Yeah.
Look, it's just really, really very, very unfortunate. But we see it too regularly, you know? We see it too regularly. We saw it, you know, with the $200,000, you know, that, you know, the mayor wanted to give himself, you know, and it was just wrong, you know? And what bothers me, Mr. Santos, and I know you'll agree, was how all that played out. Because Elon Musk Foundation all of a sudden said, you know, we're going to give $10 million to the city of Brownsville, you know? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, Ramiro Gonzalez, who was the middle guy between the city of Brownsville and Elon Musk Foundation, says, oh, you know, you might want to, you know, give it to downtown. You know, and all of a sudden, Mayor Mendez, all of a sudden becomes business partners with Ramiro Gonzalez, you know, after the money's down here, in 3 months with an LLC, all of a sudden applies for $200,000. And that's what's unfortunate, you know, and it hurts because you know this, Commissioner. We have a lot of hardworking people out there that, you know, struggled, use their savings and everything else, you know, to start up a business, you know, start up a taco stand down Southmost, you know, Brian mentioned very, very often during his thing. You know, there's a lot of taco stands down South, which is great. He'd like to get a little bit of that $200,000. You know, I got a couple of barbershops out there by Rivera. He'd like to get a couple of those bucks also. And you know, this whole city should have even.
But can't they though? Why don't they?
Well, here's the thing. There's a couple of things I want to say on this. First, and I think Musk was the one that wanted the money to go downtown, but it was how is it going to be spent? I think that's where guidance from the city came into play. And that's possibly what led to it being a grant program. I think the mayor ultimately recognized that it didn't look proper, and that's why he finally withdrew the application for the $200,000. When we're talking about the money, though, it shouldn't just be about, well, everybody should get a share. It should be about everybody should have the opportunity, yes.
Yes.
But it's not just about, well, this business has been here, they should get a piece. No, it's about this money is supposed to roll over and have an impact and do great things, and it's supposed to multiply for us. It's like we do with anything else for economic development money, for example. It's not about give everybody $50,000.
Yeah, of course.
If I give them $50,000, what is that going to mean to the economy in jobs and sales taxes and everything else? It's about a return on investment for the taxpayers. That's the first thing. The second part, and to your all's point, yes, is the way the system works right now. Those that know how to work it keep getting grants over and over and over. And you've got a big segment of the population, because I've even heard this from folks at the city where they go sometimes door to door to businesses saying, look, we've got a new grant program. We want you to apply. And the business owners don't believe them. They're like, no, we know how this works. Our businesses aren't going to get the money. It's going to go to the same people. This isn't real. They don't trust. And we're not doing enough yet to change that perception out there. And that's what we've got to do. And some of it needs to be that we structure some grant programs that specifically say this has to be a first-time recipient, first-time business owner, something. They've still got to have a viable business plan that will generate a return on investments, but it shouldn't just be about the same people all the time getting the money. There should be opportunities out there, but it's got to be something that will generate a return for the taxpayer.
You're completely right, Commissioner. And let me say, and let me give credit where credit is due. You know, I appreciate Nathan Burkhart out there.
Yes.
You know, I think he's a stand-up guy.
Mm-hmm.
I like the guy. The guy's reached out to me because, I've tried to set up I appreciate him. I tried to set up a meeting so that we could go see the E-Bridge even before it opened. Very cordial, follows up and everything. I was supposed to have a meeting with him this week, when we were going to talk about, because I wanted to get a little bit more information in regards to the 0.2, the big grants and the monies that are out there. And I appreciate, him setting up time. Couldn't make it. My schedule got conflicted. But what I appreciated about Nathan was he was insistent. I'm here. I'll work with your schedule. Let's sit down and let's talk about everything out there that's in the city. And I appreciate that. And I'll say I have faith in Nathan because he hasn't proven me otherwise. And like Nathan, there's so many other great people in the city of Brownsville that work for the city of Brownsville that want, to help push it out there. And I think what happens is something that a lot of our PUB employees are feeling, that because there's so much disdain against PUB and city of Brownsville, a lot of people think they can, they're all cut, cortados con la misma cuchara. And that's not the case. And that's one of the things that I hope, and I pray to God that I haven't, been a part of coming across as saying, oh, screw everyone at PUB or screw everyone at the city of Brownsville. It's not that the case. We've got amazing people working at the city of Brownsville. But when you've got individuals that sit on these boards and committees, which is my number one platform out there, like the Limas brothers, Michael Limas, that continuously keeps on getting these monies, sitting on the BCIC, expanding the historical district to encompass 1848, which, is even in partnership with Tony Martinez, just perks my chin a little bit in regards to, maybe other individuals, should have a right to apply. But I agree with you 100%. We've got to stop that cycle where it's the same people over and over and over again. Because that's one of the back and forth that I got, back and forth that I had with the Mayor Trey Mendez in regards to, you're lying because I'm not making any money. And I said, I disagree with you. And, just because of the way, finances work. But I want individuals in all parts of Brownsville, and just to clarify what you said, to have the opportunity,
Are there any programs that help entrepreneurs or existing, small business owners that maybe they don't know how to apply for a grant or how to apply for any kind of
and that's part of what E-Bridge is going to be about. E-Bridge is supposed to help entrepreneurs get started, find those grant opportunities, and also file for patents. If they've got an idea that they want trademarked and patented, that's something that they can find help at E-Bridge for.
It turned out to a great building.
Yes.
I mean, it looks amazing. I had the opportunity to be there. It looks amazing.
Where is that located?
The Casa de Nylon building.
It's right next to the parking garage on
block and a half from the office.
On Adams and 13th.
Yeah, Adams and 13th Street. But and let me say again, one of the things that I hope a lot of individuals realize, look, I'm going to applaud everything great that the city does, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to go to the opening of the e-commerce building, and I hope that, and not that we forget, because I want people not to forget that, we got duped on that building, and the building and the adjacent little properties or whatever, $2.3 million, really got duped by the Golanskis. Simple as that. Again, no one's ever going to convince me otherwise. You got to do it by lawn season, especially on a piece of building that was worth $600,000, 600, 500, and some $600,000. Again, but now that we have it, we better do something with it. And that's one of the things that I tried to convey. We already have it. We already got screwed. Let's make, lemonade from these damn lemons that they threw at us. And this lemonade that we have right now, that e-commerce building, I'm going to have faith in until I'm proven wrong. Because I want to believe that individuals that like Nathan and other amazing folks at the city of Brownsville, they're going to fight to do the right thing. And they're struggling. And the politicos have let us down and has made their job all the more harder. But again, I'm always going to come out, and I even thank the BCIC for making my Erasmo for mayor cookies. They were delicious.
That's what that E was for?
Huh?
That's what the E was for on the cookie for Erasmo?
You didn't know that?
Well, listen, it is getting late, and this is a conversation we're going to have again for another 3-hour program. Unfortunately, I have to get up super early because I didn't hit the lotto again this weekend.
Damn it.
So I got to get back to work. But hey, thank you, both of you, for coming on here and duking it out politely. You know what I mean?
I appreciate it.
We love to go at it, but we are friends.
I appreciate Commissioner Los Santos, and he knows that. And let me say, I appreciate everyone out there that is doing anything for the city of Brownsville. Again, one of the reasons why, and I knew John was going to run. One of the reasons why I decided to run is because I don't think that they've done enough. I definitely know that Jessica hasn't done enough. I don't think John Cowan did enough. I just think that we could steer the ship towards a different sunset and work together. And one of the things that I hope, and I know Commissioner Santos and myself, when I become mayor of the city of Brownsville, we're going to work really, really well together. And I hope that I have faith in Commissioner Pedro Cardenas, and whoever gets to be Commissioner for District 1. I think that we're all going to work together, to steer the ship towards a new direction, something different, man. Stay away from these politicos. You weren't a political, Commissioner Los Santos, when you came into this. And, you tend not to do too much political talk. I'm hoping that you completely stay away from it, as soon as, your reelection or whatever other position you decide to go for. But people are just tired of this, let me be cautious with what I say. And I think this is what we've done from Jessica Tetreault, because she said absolutely nothing. She's brain dead. And we have had very little, if anything, from John Cowan. And I think people just want something a little bit different. So I have faith that after winning this election, we'll work well together, because we could have our disagreements, and I've had many with Commissioner Los Santos, but I'm still going to go to have lunch with him. This time I'll make him pay.
I like how he slid that acceptance speech right in there.
No, but thank you, Manny. Thank you for having us on. And again, it's going to be an interesting campaign, and I'm excited.
Well, best of luck to you and Mr. De Los Santos. I know people like what you do for the most part. They love listening to you talk. You might not have too many fans from all over the city, but I think overall, I really do hope that you are, doing the right thing for everybody. And Erasmo, if you win, I'm hoping that you're, going to look out for the people the same and not fall into this elite crowd that you keep talking about over the last few years. So I'm sick of hearing about.
Orange ticket holders.
Orange ticket holders.
Yeah.
To this day, I still didn't get my Sombrero Fest ticket.
And I apologize. I will make that up to you.
Guys,
Yeah,
I
appreciate you all coming on here. We'll have to do it again sometime, later in the week or weekend or whenever you guys are up for it. I think it's educational for people to hear this kind of discussion and see what's going on.
Once a week works for me.
Once a week. Hey, we do it once a week.
Guys, and lunch soon, Commissioner.
All right, everybody have a great night. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you to the audience.
God bless.
Everyone have a good week. Have a great Sunday night, and we'll see you tomorrow. I've got John Cowan on, by the way, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. So speaking of,
I might be coming.
there you go. I'm
No.
sure you will.
I'll leave him be. I'll let him speak. I think everyone should have that equal opportunity to speak freely. So I'll be out. I'll listen to it afterwards. I promise.
Good enough. All right, Roy, thank you. And Osmo, thank you very much. Everyone, have a great